Hey y'all, welcome back to Mama Loves Manga. I am sitting down today because this is sort of impromptu, like I just had this idea. So I have a few series on my shelf that I have been collecting as the volumes release, and most of these are series that in the beginning I enjoyed them and I kept collecting them because I kept enjoying them, but at some point something happened that made me question whether or not I want to continue reading them. And the first series up on the chopping block is Ron and the Grey World by Irie. A little backstory about me and my relationship with this series. Earlier this year I was contacted by Viz and they asked me if I wanted to help them promote Ron and the Grey World. The second volume was coming out soon at that point, and they wanted to know if I would make a video for their channel talking about this series, just giving like a synopsis and helping to promote it. So they offered to send me the first and the second volume early, which they did, but before they sent them to me, I actually purchased the first volume on my Kindle because I wanted to read it and know what it was about before I started to promote it. So I did. I loved the first volume and decided to go ahead and say, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna promote it. I'm comfortable with it. Seems like a great story. Very interesting. Yes, there was this aspect that I gave a side eye, but the way it was handled, I was fine with it, and I was curious to see how the rest of the story would go. So as soon as I got volume 2 in the mail, I read it before I made my video because, again, I wanted to make sure that I would be comfortable with promoting it. And again, I read the second volume and I liked the way things went. Now, I recently purchased volume 3 by myself, my own coins, and I just read it just now, and I'm not quite sure if I want to continue on with this series. Let me talk about what is giving me pause. I don't know how many of y'all who watch my videos remember the movie Big. I think, going by my demographics, most of y'all should remember it because most of y'all are in like the 20-something to 30-something range. Anyway, in the movie Big, there's a kid that wants to grow up. He makes a wish on this weird fortune-telling thing and wakes up in a grown man's body, and there's shenanigans. That's essentially what this is. You have the main character, Ron, who is a 4th grader, and she has a magical mom, a magical dad, a magical brother. She's also magical, but because she's a kid, she doesn't have full control of her powers, and she really wants to grow up to be like her mom. And it just so happens that she has these magic shoes that she can put on, and they cause her body to grow up, but not her mind. She's still a 9 or 10-year-old girl on the inside, but she looks like she could be anywhere from the age of like 16 to 20 something. It's really hard to tell. There aren't a lot of specific ages being used throughout this series, except for the fact that we do know for sure that Ron is actually a 4th grader. By the way, I apologize if you can hear mowing. My son is mowing the lawn. Anyway, so we know for sure that Ron is actually a child, and that she puts on her shoes and she transforms into something of an adult. I'm not sure what their definition of an adult is, but that's that. And so when she changes into her adult self, she gets up to some shenanigans because she's a child who is now in the body of an adult and is running around getting in trouble because that's what kids do. Through an interesting series of events, she ends up meeting this man named Otaro, who has no idea that she is actually a child on the inside. However, he does think that she is a high schooler, so it's clear that he does not view her as an adult. He says in one scene that he doesn't mess with kids, and so it's very clear that he may not know that she is a child, but he at least thinks that she is maybe an older teenager. He definitely realizes that she is not his age, whatever his age is. His age is never mentioned, so I have no idea how old he actually is, but he's definitely grown. What the? I really hope that my microphone didn't catch any of that, because I'm not filming this again. I've tried to film this so many times and my batteries keep dying. Anyway, now I will say that nothing actually happens between the two of them. There are some scenes where questionable things go on, and Ron thankfully gets herself out of the situation, or is somehow saved by like a family member or a friend or something like that. But it's very oof. I will say that it does seem as if Otaro is not written to be a sympathetic character. No one likes him, and no one seems to really be condoning his relationship with Ron. Even people that are close to him are like, hey, you need to... I don't feel like Aki Irie is writing a story that's supposed to glorify that type of relationship. What I gather from these first 3 volumes is that Ron is a child. She is impulsive. She lacks what's the word I'm looking for? Common sense. And she has this ability to change into someone who looks like a grown person. She wants to grow up so bad, and she keeps getting into these situations where she thinks she's grown. And it very much makes me think of when I was young and situations that I got into because I thought I was grown. So I do think that Aki Irie is doing a really good job of portraying how a child would act if they were given some like sort of like adult freedoms in a way. What I don't like is Otaro. I don't like that man. I think he's super creepy. I don't like the potential relationship. I don't know. But I don't think that Aki Irie is writing a story where they end up together. It just doesn't feel that way, especially considering that there is another character who is introduced, I think you meet him in the first volume, but more so in the second volume. He is a little boy, I can't remember his name, but a little boy that's the same age as Ron, who has a crush on her. He does find out her little secret, and they have an interesting friendship developing kind of thing. And to me, it feels like there is a slight love triangle, but I really think, and maybe that's just wishful thinking, that Ron will end up more so leaning toward this boy and like her family, and not necessarily wanting to run around with this Otaro guy. Hey, editing Aisha here. Ignore the fact that I'm not wearing anything on my head. I look a mess. I did want to hop on here and add that while I do not like the potential relationship between Ron and Otaro, I understand where Ron is coming from in this situation, because it's mentioned in like the first volume, maybe second volume, that she is an outcast at school. She has no friends. People are either mean to her or they just don't talk to her because she's a little weird, and she, outside of her family, she doesn't really have anyone, and she's looking for friendship, and she wants to be loved in a way that is different from how her family loves her. And I think we can all relate to that feeling of like wanting to make connections with people outside of the group of people that we feel have to like us, you know what I'm saying? So when she does encounter Otaro, or whatever his name is, he's the first person outside of her family that pays attention to her and that seems to like her and seems to want to be her friend. Now she is 10 and doesn't quite understand what his idea of friendship is, so that definitely complicates things. But that I think this story is an example of why adult and like child relationships are so, like, there's a line, you know, like it's very important for adults to be aware of the fact that they're talking to children. And anyway, that's a whole other conversation. The point is, I wanted to hop on here and say that the way Ron is written, she doesn't seem to have actual romantic feelings toward Otaro. Like, that does not seem like what this story is about. She's just trying to find someone outside of her family to connect with. She genuinely wants friendship. Oh, you can see my living room. She genuinely wants friendship, and it's just he's not the one. So I'm really hoping that this story goes down the way that I want it to go, and not the way that it could possibly go. Anyway, back to editing. I'm hoping that, but with all that being said, I think this is a series that I am going to, I don't want to say that I'm not going to collect it, because I am very curious about what's going to happen, but it is not a series that I will continue to push on people. And I'm not saying, like, I absolutely do not regret working with Viz, because I did absolutely enjoy the first and second volume so much, but now as I'm getting more into the story, I'm realizing that it's not something that I would recommend all willy-nilly, just because I don't know what's gonna happen. Once this story is finished and I get to the end of it and I see like what happens, then from there I think I will be able to make a more informed decision on whether or not I would recommend this. So it's still on the chopping block. I don't know if I'm going to get rid of it or not. I'm going to wait and let them come out. Simply G talked about this in her recent manga pickups, and I think she mentioned that it's a short series. I probably could look on my phone really quick to see how many volumes it is. Actually, you know what? I am going to go ahead and Google it. Never mind, I tried to look it up and I can't find any information about it. I'm not the best at looking up information about manga because I don't really know like what sites to go to except for like Wikipedia. There isn't a Wikipedia for this. So anyway, I don't know how many volumes total this is. There is a 4th volume coming out fairly soon. I know that for sure. I think G from Simply G said there were 7 volumes altogether. I'm not quite sure, but it sounds like it's going to be a short series. I do not hate this story. I think there are a lot of great things about it. The art is absolutely stunning. The characters are very interesting. The only character that I don't like is Otaro, and I think it's just because he creeps me out. Even if he weren't involved with Ron, he still creeps me out because he's just an icky person, and it seems like he creeps out everyone. It doesn't feel like their relationship is being condoned at all to me, but that's just from my point of view. Y'all know that I am very sensitive to like age gap things, especially when it comes to adults and minors, and this doesn't fully trigger me because of other elements, but I am keeping an eye on it. I'm giving it. So there's that. The next title I'm going to talk about throughout this series is Murciélago by Yoshi Murakana. So stay tuned for the next one because this is definitely going to be on the chopping block, and I will be reading all the volumes I have. I have up to volume 9. I have not read volumes 8 or 9, and I have some thoughts because volume 6 is where I started to give it the side eye. So I'm gonna try to catch up with what I have and decide whether or not I want to continue on with this one. So stay tuned for the next installment of whatever this series is going to be called. And on that note, I'm gonna go. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Oh wow, there goes my battery. Hold on. This battery is dying too. Really? How is this already dying again? I just...